Okay, so hello and welcome to our webinar, Implementing the TruMethods Framework. My name is Bob. I'm joined by Gary. What's up, Gary?
Ah, great session today. I love it when we have a guest.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause he's going to do most of the talking. We're just going to ask questions.
Yeah, good. And one of our members, and yeah, for you and me, like, safe to say he's one of our favorites, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, one of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He wasn't always one of our favorites, but he's now one of our favorites.
he's
Yeah.
he's like a fungus. He grows on you. I just like that he's muted right now and he can't respond.
Yeah, I know. It's the
Great.
best part about being us.
Okay, so let's do some level setting and then we'll bring on our special guest. So we're talking about implementing the TruMethods framework, and we have another video on the TruMethods framework. And if you haven't watched that, you can go back to the members portal and go check out that video. Today we're going to talk about the implementation of it in the real world scenario with one of our members who has been doing this over a period of years, and what it's meant for them, the challenges and the successes.
And this is really our focus. You know, we have a lot of content on a lot of things around business planning and sales, but we really, moving forward, narrowing our focus around the framework, having people see it, understand it clearly, and specifically around, you know, driving our superpower, our process around standards, alignment, strategy, and budgeting as the center of it. Because those people that see the framework simply and have the right priorities, they figure out, we learned, Bob, they figure out all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. Okay, so let's dial up our special guest here. Hey, Josh, are you there?
Yeah, I'm a little humble, or humbled rather. Yeah, but I'm here. That was a wonderful introduction.
Yeah.
Really special. I can
Would
tell
you
everyone
expect
out there.
anything less from us?
Here's the thing with Bob and Gary. They start to like you when you get your net income near 20%.
Yeah.
Until then, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we still loved you. We were just more annoyed with you at 10%.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Right.
You know, a lot of people
Yeah.
have that reaction.
We liked you 50% less at 10% than at 20%.
So we want to welcome Josh Kotler from Western Digitech in beautiful Miami, Florida. And Josh, been with us for a very long time, right? This journey, TruMethods, Winner's Circle, bunch of years now, right?
It's been a while. I think I became an online member 5 years ago. Is that right?
Nice. Yeah, I think about that. And today, where are you at today in terms of your recurring revenue?
So we're at 260 today. You know, probably in the 150 range when we started with Winner's Circle, maybe 140.
How much of
we've
that
replaced most of that, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much of that original 150 is still intact?
Yeah, probably like $20.
Right. But that's what happens, right? When you start to get, we're going to talk about today, when you start to get commander of the business, you view those customers differently. And yeah, that's the hard work, right? Is getting past that while you're trying to build the new concept and support the old customers. So, Bob, let's.
Some of us make it harder than others. So,
yeah. I think we all make it hard, Josh. Yeah, we all make it hard, and we're going to ask why today. That's one of the reasons why you're here.
I should lay down on a couch.
Sit back, relax, and tell us about your first memory. Okay, so this is from Schnitzfest. This is from the webinar on the TruMethods framework. The idea of the framework is the reason why it exists is, number one, to be able to connect roles to top line revenue. And then to also be able to determine what our costs are in an accurate way. So our cost per seat is how we figure out exactly what is it that we need to charge, right? So what are our costs? How do we do our gross margins, and how do we charge for it? So these two things are the reason behind why the framework exists, right, Gar?
Yeah, and so Josh, I mean, to me, this is the simple concept of how we drive up margins and get to world class of having this view. So the first question I want to ask you is, like me, I look and says, hey, look, this is logic. It's pretty simple. Why is it not? Why is it so complex for almost 100% of the people that we work with? Like,
I think for me, the complexity comes from, we're already up and running. We have an MSP. We're introduced to this framework. The logic is unassailable, right? I mean, it's correct. I'm here to tell everyone listening today, it's correct. But we bring all of our baggage into the process, and it takes a while to admit, I think, as business owners, that you don't know what you're doing. The logic you've used in the past isn't right. Maybe you haven't used any logic at all. And it's a big deal to have to sort of mentally tear everything down and rebuild it around this framework.
Yeah, and like I have a little different view. I say, like, look, you were a smart business person and ran a nice business before you met us. So I don't know that everything is wrong. It's not right to have growth and profitability that you wanted. In other words, that logic and approach was going to get you to 10 or 13% with some growth. It wasn't going to get you to 20+%, right?
It's not that it was wrong, but the stuff that was right was accidentally right, if that makes sense. And we all get stuck in this spot where good becomes the enemy of great. It's not easy to let go of this stuff. The bad habits, the false assumptions. You really have to open yourself up to the process.
At SNISFest, one of our panelists said, looking back, he remembers times when he kind of, if he was honest with himself, he knew what he had to do, but he just couldn't get himself to do it. And I think that's what it is. You're holding on to those, either closely held beliefs or how the changes are going to impact customers or employees. And that resistance and fear builds up in you.
Sure. That's right. That's a big part of it. And seeing other partners, TruMethods partners, have success, has made all the difference for me. Once I could see it, I could believe it.
That's so much, isn't it? Like when you see that someone else is getting results somehow, but I don't understand. Bob and I told you. Why didn't you just believe us?
I don't know.
Why did
you guys are going to have to look yourselves in the mirror for that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, look, it's tough. It's not easy. I'll speak for everyone on this call. It's not easy to do this, but once you understand the framework, once you start plugging your numbers into the framework and your results in the framework, the beauty of it is you can work on every area when you do the math. As long as you're working with one or maybe two variables, you can see your business from a whole bunch of angles by using this framework. And then, you just have to you have to deal with the facts, right?
Yep. So let's go one more slide, Bob, and let's dive into this a little bit deeper.
Okay, so here, this is, dealing with the facts, right, Josh? This is just trying to get down to the regular, the lowest common denominators, like for each one of these delivery areas. The reason to have them is so that we can individually evaluate how we're doing, and set KPIs and march ourselves towards those world-class numbers. Why don't you talk a little bit about the implementation in your business of the delivery roles, like how it was before and then how it is now, and the contrast between them?
Well, we started, in 1994 as a project and a break-fix business, like a lot of companies out there that have made their way over to managed services. And we really were reactive and project-based. We'd react, and finally we'd say, hey, you know what, guys, we should do this project with you. And we didn't have roles. We didn't have service delivery areas defined. It was sort of everyone's trying to build time, right? It's just an absolute mess. When we started to implement managed services, we knew we had to build out a help desk, right? We knew we needed a help desk, but we didn't know how we were going to handle things like centralized services or professional services, and even the concept of net admin and VCIO, right? That remained foreign to us for a couple of years. Having this framework allowed us to start plugging our people into different roles as you guys define them. And the more we plugged people into roles, the more data and KPIs that we drove on each of those roles, the more we could get into the microeconomics and the macroeconomics and figure out, which area needed the most attention. What did we need to improve, most urgently to get in line with what you guys are doing. So it's, the process took 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, my view of and you tell me if this is accurate, but my view, and nice, because you're in the peer, I've got to get a pretty, consistent view of your mindset. That in the beginning, those first couple years, you were spending a lot of your time on how to make professional services and support behave better. In other words, I felt like you were putting a lot of time on the symptom and not as much energy on net admin and VCI on the cure, right? Because it just seems like, would you see that in the same way? Because I think that's a common thing that we see. People are they don't see one as the cure and the other as the symptom. They see it as the problem. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. It also, one of the reasons that tends to develop late is that for folks coming from a break-fix project mentality, net admin and VCIO are the two things that absolutely weren't happening. They're the most foreign. So they're the last pieces usually to fall into place. And that was true for us.
They're also non-billable, right?
They seem that way, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning.
At first blush, right.
Yeah.
Until you realize you can get from 10 to 20%.
Also, look, Gary, the reality is most people come into this process with the wrong all-in seat price. And, we have costs to deliver in each of these service areas. So when you're looking at bolting in net admin and VCIO onto the wrong all-in seat price, that doesn't end well.
Right. Yep. But until you start to have more value, right, and separation, you can't get the customers with the right price. And that's why I think it takes longer for most people to make the transition. Like that really sums it up. That's when we say you have to change the tires while the car is rolling down the highway. That's what it is. And
you have to do it with limited cash flow, right? Most of us don't have, a huge pile of money to draw on to go ahead and retool. So we have to do it with the cash flow we can create. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge. It all gets back, I always turn everything back to sales because that's kind of what I do. But this is a great thing to understand because when you're selling against sort of new MSPs, folks that aren't really delivering, all the service delivery areas, if they're the incumbent, it's easy to tell that prospect they're never going to get there. It's going to take years for them to get where we are now because it does take years.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And that's what kind of helps with separation. When you know how hard it is and what hard work for someone else who is not there based on asking a couple questions, and a prospect says they can deliver the same thing for less, you're going to get teed up on them.
Oh, yeah.
So one thing, like you see why we stress it with you guys in Winter Circle and with our members about this transition period. Like what's important is using the MRR evaluator, making sure you're prioritizing clients, at least recognizing some number of clients that you can have some resources and start to deliver your superpower so that you can start to see the results and change your culture. But that's really the only way, like you said, with limited cash flow, is to make real important choices with your people and prioritizing customers, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. You're making, I didn't realize this at the time, but you make decisions about who will not be a client. Sometimes they're not conscious decisions, but you make those decisions. And just looking at the churn over the years, we're tracking that. We track that all the way back to 2012. as we brought NetAdmin and then VCIO on, our churn, I'm not going to say it stopped without knocking wood, but the churn has really gone away.
Right.
Yeah, you make choices in the beginning. You make some tough choices. You make choices on clients. You make choices on your own people. You make choices on how much money ends up in your personal bank account.
Right.
You know, the nice thing about the framework, though, is when you understand the math, and people that are just starting on the process can plug in what they know and get some clarity.
Yeah, like you said,
it allows you to see what's coming.
I'll add something. You make choices or you don't.
Or you don't, which
those
is also a
choices are
choice.
made, or those choices are made for you. Like you would rather choose where you put your priority on your clients, but see, many people don't, and then their clients choose who aren't happy because you're treating them. Yeah,
I can tell you that if I had understood this when I was 120, 130, 40, whatever thousand per month, if I had appreciated this framework and understood this process a little bit more, I wouldn't be at 260. I'd be at 320 now, because I would have chosen the clients that value a higher level of service over those that don't. I would have made choices instead of, as you said, had those clients make choices on their own.
What's funny is there's one set of issues for someone that already has 130 to 150 and has to make this changeover that takes time. And then there's another set of problems for members that we get who have, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 a month. But it seems like, although the challenges are different, the timing's about the same. Like it's not that much of an advantage whether you're starting with 60,000 or whether you're starting with 120. To get the 250, it pretty much, we've seen people come in with all of those things, and that's not the leading factor of what gets them there. Because those smaller companies, maybe they have less maturity and they have more things to do with process, or maybe not as much business acumen as you had, but they don't have to replace as much revenue as you did.
You don't have to replace as much revenue, but at the same time, the folks that they have 120 or 130 probably have some sales capability, right, that's been developed to get there. Yeah, there's a trade-off, but that's probably why the timing works out to be about the same.
Yeah, awesome.
Good. So you want to talk about let's talk about a couple mistakes, common questions.
If you want me to just lay them out, I've got a list of 84 serious mistakes.
We only have time for the top 83, so
well, tough choices.
Well, let's we got a couple of framework stuff, and then we'll get to your list.
Yeah, we have some stuff for you too. Yeah. You can just tell us your free form.
Right. So talk about, maybe we even mentioned this a little bit already, but resources outside of the 5 delivery areas and accounting for costs, stuff like how have you done this in the past? Design desk, dispatch, triage, service delivery. What have you seen about accounting for costs of things that are still in the service delivery, but maybe don't fit into those 5 delivery areas?
Well, design desk, I always try to cover design desk off of margins on product sales, right? That's, if that can't work, then there's an issue there. But for your controller, sort of management people, receptionist, whatever, you just have to do the math to make sure that they're covered, as a premium on top of the all-on seat price that you calculated using the framework or using macroeconomics. So, yeah, you look, these people need to get paid. You have to account for those costs. You have to add it to your all-in seat price.
Are you really careful about people that are in a service delivery role that fall out of the blocks?
No one falls out of the blocks anymore.
Yeah. There we go.
Right. That's the answer we're looking for. Accounting for 100% of your costs is being realistic.
That is a huge part of adopting the framework. You've got to be honest with people like that and get them into a role.
Right. So what we'll see a lot of times is trying hiding the costs or saying, well, that's outside of the delivery areas. The TruMethods hasn't specifically said, that these go in these certain areas, and We're saying that when you do your pricing that you have to account for their costs regardless, right?
Yeah.
If they're going to be a part of service delivery, then they have to be accounted for.
Yeah.
Or microeconomics just doesn't work. It won't work for you. You'll feel good about the gross margin percentage, but that's not actually your gross margin.
Right.
Yeah. And again, that's the key thing about microeconomics is understanding we're figuring those costs at capacity. So your margins might be lower in the beginning because you're adding people and you have capacity. But as you fill that capacity, you know that your margins are going to be right because it's all about average cost and average price. And that nuance really trips up a lot of people.
Well, I mean, look, the tools are there. You guys have provided the tools to go ahead and calculate where an MSP is going to be at any given time. I try to make my calculations at a little less than capacity, only because I think true capacity is perfection, and you can't quite get there. So add an extra $5 or $10 to the all-in seat price. Customers don't care.
Yep.
Did everyone hear that? Customers don't care about an extra $5 or $10?
Customers don't care about an extra $5 or $10 because it's not $5 or $10 for a seat. It's an extra 100, 200, 500 on an account because our customers shouldn't be involved with seat price. They only know what they pay per month and what they get in return. And once you have that, like he said, another $5 or $10, not that big of a deal.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Not at all.
Oh, Dave says crappy prospects care.
True.
Well,
Good.
listen, we find it at some point they're not prospects if they don't need the awesome results that Josh spent 5 years of his life committed, man. Like, I know how hard you worked and how much you've gone through to go through all that to deliver a result that is truly special. Yeah, if someone doesn't need that result, you don't want them as a customer. You've worked too hard to get here, man.
Oh, absolutely. And for the MSPs that are out there listening now, and they're having issues with all-in seat price, if your clients have been with you for a little while, they'll tolerate it. Raise their price. It'll help you implement NetAdmin and VCIO that much faster. Just a little piece of advice there.
Yeah, well, one common thing that comes up is people get into our program, they're early in it, they get some of our stuff, and they say, okay, well, how do I go out and raise prices on my customers? I'm like, you don't. What you do is you go out and raise value, and then they'll pay you more. Like, people don't want to pay you more for the same exact result. Just to go out and, hey, Peakonomics said that I need a $30 higher seat price. I'm going to raise your price. No bueno. But going out and saying, hey, listen, we've changed our delivery model. We have 2 additional roles. We're driving down noise. We're driving down your risk, and so our customers are willing to pay a little bit more to get these amazing results. Yeah, a lot of people will do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to sell a little bit, even to your own clients, but it's worth it.
It's worth it.
It's worth it. Okay, let's keep going. Here's one question we get all the time. Josh, what counts as REM? What's reactive? We're not even going to go into the other question we get, the one we shall not speak of, but we created this new acronym that we want everyone to learn. REM equals this, and I think this is a little easier to remember. Anything included in your monthly fee that's not billable VCIO, centralized services, or NetAdmin. That's
Boom.
That's reactive. And so what we see a lot is and a handy flow chart here to figure out if something's REM. But along the lines of capturing costs, if we're required to do something for the client that isn't planned as part of one of our proactive delivery areas, like, that's REM. Like, if we're required to do it for them, that's REM. If we can't bill for it, it's REM. It's simple as that.
Yeah, and so again, go back. We don't spend a lot of time on this right now because you can go back and watch the video, the TruMethods framework, where we talk about this for an hour. But this is a challenge. We're trying to come up with new ways like this to explain this concept to people. I think part of it, Bob, you and I have admitted we probably shouldn't have put reactive in the definition, and maybe we'll change that at some time because people get hung up on that because we call it REM. But it really is, Josh, capturing 100% of your cost is critical to this. And so that's the hardest part I find of getting our members to, is the understanding the framework to this degree, so that everything that everybody does, gets moved into understanding that that is part of reactive hours per endpoint per month. Are you with me on this, Josh?
I'm with you. I would also add that it's really important to design, write, whatever, your agreements with very clear lines, as to what is billable, what's covered by the scope of the agreement and what's out of scope. And if it's out of scope, bill it, right? Otherwise, it's REM, right? It's going to turn into REM, and you're going to screw your numbers up. So, you got to start all the way back at the sales process.
So one question we got here is, Nicole said, how do you assign cost to the initial site setup of a client? So Bob, let's go back to our chart. Okay, so first thing I would ask you, Nicole, are you charging for it? Do you charge a month or two up front? If it's billable, then it's professional services. If it's not, it goes, we ask the next question, is that done by the net admin, VCIO, or centralized services? And basing on them doing that, can they still get the essence of their job done? If the answer is yes, again, does it align with the essence of the role? If yes, then that's what it is. If no, it's REM. So you can go back to this chart and answer that specific question, but we got to capture 100% of our costs.
We want to have
Nicole,
so we have
bill
some
it
people now who they don't charge an onboarding fee, and they have a full-time person who does onboarding. That's 100% of their time is REM.
That's right.
Right. I know we want to have low REM numbers and low tickets, low hours and stuff like that, but it's more important for us to have 100% of our costs calculated. This isn't to make us feel better. We got to know what it is. Like, this is reality.
Yeah, someone said to me, well, I have these people, they do like our max and stuff. We don't, and I'm like, well, that's REM. They're like, well, if we count them, our REM's going to be really high. I'm like, yeah, and your margins are really low. Like, first thing we got to do before we want to lower it, we want to see it clearly 100%. Then that's the point at which we'll work to lower it.
I mean, Bob, you said it's we want low numbers there. We just want numbers.
Accurate numbers.
We want good numbers, yeah.
Yeah, so I know people, like, they'll ask me questions on Ask TruMethods, like, well, give me a target for REM. I want you to know what yours is, and then make an improvement from where you're at. Like, you comparing yourself to some other MSP, you have to look at what yours is and what your reality, and make improvements from there. I give you guidance on how to do it.
It's relative to your seat price.
Yep.
Okay? Because they're the two things that, are the counterbalances. So if your REM is a little higher, but your seat price is higher, go back and do your macro and micro. You'll see how it turns out. If your REM is lower, then it impacts that. So having said that, yeah, as you scale, we would love you to be at 0.2.
Yeah.
In REM. And we have people that are doing it.
I'd rather you have 70% gross margins, right? I'd rather you have that than, yeah. So, okay. Let's keep moving here.
So let me ask this. So for you, Josh, that concept of REM, is that something that everybody in your business knows and understands? It's central to understanding that's part of what gauges success, is lowering noise levels for your clients?
Everyone is keyed into REM. It's one of the numbers that's, as you walk through the office, you're going to be confronted with that number a lot, because right to Bob's point, we only have two ways to drive those gross margins: REM and all-in seat price.
Yep.
So if you're in a sales role, you're driving all-in seat price. If you're in service delivery, you're locked into REM.
Yep. Good. Okay. Let's talk about Gary. When we were preparing for this, we wanted to ask Josh, like, how many in your business? We did this at SchnizFest. Like, how many people are in the everything else box, and how many people are focused on your superpower as a percentage, right? Where would you say you're at? People focused on superpower, like VCIO, net admins, and some of your centralized services, and then how many people are in other everything else? Where would you say you're at ratio wise?
So I can tell you exactly where we are.
Okay.
I mean, it's 23% of our company is in the superpower side, which is a little low.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little low. It will change over the next couple of months. We do a lot of our hiring as we onboard some capacity through the Rock. So often we get some inflated numbers for a period of time on the Rock.
Your Rock is your remote operations center. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. That's support. That's the remote support people. Got it.
It's the help desk, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So right now it's at 23%. I'll be happier when it's 30-35%.
Right. So
and that's for all of our headcount, not just technical headcount.
Okay. Because I know. Let's go to the next slide. We'll talk about the impact on culture. So I had a couple questions about this. Well, one, I want to compliment you because I got a chance to talk with your VCIOs as they're helping us right now build a VCIO and NetAdmin community right around the MIT process. And man, it's like listening to our videos with those guys. I mean, that's
what happens when you consume a lot of content. No, Andy and Gino are awesome. And if you feel good about it, imagine how good our customers feel about it.
They have to feel good. And I would imagine that I don't know your net admins, but I got to imagine that they're carrying it over to them. So I want to compliment you on it. But what's been the impact on your culture of having really that kind of, I know there's focus because I hear where they are, getting very mature in the process.
Well, I mean, on the service delivery side, for the whole company, when you have superpower delivery at such a high level, number one, it drives performance inside those delivery areas. It also drives performance everywhere else in the company, right? When the VCIOs are out meeting with, our clients and getting into initiatives and getting into planning, they're bringing a lot of that excitement back to the company, to the rest of the company, and it's great. We've achieved critical mass on A players here, and it's made all the difference. But those two service delivery areas are a huge part of driving it.
So, what percentage of your customers today really see the value in this process? Right, because we say it starts with the leadership, then it has to get out to the team, but the real impact is when the customers, that's the reason they buy and they see the value. And not 100% will, but what percentage do you think of your customer base that your superpower has reached?
That's a good question. I would say, because I believe that as far as we've gone, we can go further. I'm going to say 70%.
Yeah.
70%. So we still have a ways to go in terms of reaching certain clients, but we're getting there.
And I think you have one additional obstacle, which is you are in a vertical. So that is almost like you need refocusing because you have some knowledge in that vertical. And in the short term, that could be, obviously that's one of the reasons why they might do business with you. So you got to work equally as hard to make them see how you're going to drive those results.
Sure. We have to be into their businesses. We need to understand all their challenges, and Gino and Andy do a great job with that.
That's awesome. Top of the stack, baby.
Top of the stack. Once you get there,
it's way better, easier place to live, isn't it? Than down in the technology piece of it.
Absolutely. Churn is terrible.
It is, and when you live down at the bottom of the stack, you're going to make a mistake. Yeah, it's our business. We're in a very complex business. But those same mistakes now, because there's fewer of them when there's less issues, and when you have that business relationship, man, it's great to have those silver bullets because you need them.
You still need to do all the blocking and tackling, but you get a much longer leash when you just solved a business problem for a client and you did that with the CEO or upper management.
Yep. Awesome. All right, so I think we talked about this. We talked about Essence, and again, if anybody's out there and doesn't know what we're talking about, we have a track on the Essence, and you can go through and listen to nice short videos that really get you in line on the essence of every role, but specifically around NetAdmin and VCIO, they're awesome. So,
yep.
So we've been talking around this a little bit, command of the business, and again, you're a smart business person. You ran a great business for years, and you had command of that business. But how has it changed now with the model and seeing things more simply? Obviously, one result is your margins are way higher. But how do you, from you as a business person, what's different about the way you feel about the business in terms of having command?
I mean, just with the framework that we use in TruMethods, I know exactly how each input will impact after-tax dollars in my personal bank account. And when you know that, man, you come to work with a totally different mentality, right? Whether you're selling, whether you're working on service delivery, when you have the confidence that is, I guess, confidence in the framework is command, right? It's sort of the same thing.
Yep.
When you're there, it gets fun. The things that used to seem like pipe dreams are just a math problem.
And so let me ask you, here's what really important for people to understand. Could you have reached, you used the word, we're reaching critical mass on A players. Could you have reached that at 10%?
No.
Yeah, see, that's the part there is that, listen, you took a lot of risk and you've been in business for over 20 years. You deserve a return on your investment. I believe that with my heart and soul.
Absolutely.
But your customers are getting a big benefit, and your team members, you have better people with more opportunity. Yeah, you can't run that at 10%, man.
No, you can't. I mean, look, as business owners, you have to make decisions to grow, to take care of certain things in your business, to make sure your people have a lot of opportunity. With 10% doesn't give you a lot of choices.
Nope.
No.
The choices, the ability to think strategically starts, I'd say, at 15%.
Right.
And I'm told, although I'm not there yet, it must be amazing at 25%.
Yep.
Or 30%.
It is.
I hope to find out.
It is on both counts. Yeah. Awesome.
Good.
So we always tell people, hey, everything you need to know about this business is on this one slide. Knowing what you knew now, would you agree that if you understand that everything is here?
I wish I understood it when I first looked at it. I didn't. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
I mean, there's a lot behind all this, so.
There's a lot behind it, but I'll tell you, it makes total sense to me now. There's nothing on this graphic I don't understand. And that's where everyone in the audience has to get. I know plenty of people that are listening are already there, but if anyone who's watching this looks at this and says, I don't really know what all this means, get back to the content.
Yeah, and and I think moving forward, like we are trying to get really focused, a narrow focus. We teach a lot of stuff, but we are getting very narrow focused on the core framework, because I feel a sense of urgency, Josh. The bottom of the stack, it's getting more crowded.
It's a commodity.
Right? Faster. Yeah, it's getting crowded fast. Like you have to get up to the top of that stack. So the bottom of that market's changing. We need to we need to have the time, money, and resources to really focus on adding more value at the top of the stack, like business value. And we have an opportunity to work with some larger clients, but it's really hard to work with larger clients and bring true value right to them if you don't have that critical mass of A players.
I think all business is a race to add value for the market. So yeah, absolutely. And whether you're making cars or selling managed services, whoever gets the most value to the market wins.
I was talking with Jim Mullen, who does some sales coaching with us, and he said he was talking to one of our members, and they were like having some frustrations in sales, and so he spent a couple minutes with them, and they have like 5 or 6 employees in their company, and he says, "Well, I like targeting companies that have 100 to 200 desktops, and we're having really bad luck in sales." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you can't add any value to them,
Right.
you know." Go get those deals at 5,000 and 6,000 a month. Build your superpower. Build your A players. Build some bench and scale. Then bring that same value back to those other people, and it's awesome then.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to compete with a 4 or 5 person IT department when you're only 4 or 5 people.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Josh. Before
Here's
we
your
get
chance.
to our QBR, if you could go back in time, what would you change? What would you tell Josh from 5 years ago?
I think, well, first of all, I'd eat right and get a little more exercise. But if if I were going back to 2012, I would take the time, take a weekend or two, and get my numbers into the tools that you guys have provided. Get my numbers in there, understand, what's going on in my business from a numbers standpoint. I mean, I think that held me back for a long time. The other thing is just to get your head around the concept of the debt you have to your clients and your people to get better fast, or the obligation.
Yep. Yeah.
You have everyone out there has got good people working hard for them every day, and we just owe it to them to try to keep up.
I'm with you, and really, if you but I don't think you can do that until you do the first piece of what you said, which is really dive in. And most people who start with TruMethods, the first time they fill out the QBR that we're going to review one right now, and we're going to let you hang on, Josh, with us and look at it. They normally can't even get 100%. They can't track their REM. Like, they have to spend some time first realizing.
That's okay. That's okay, right?
But that's the starting point. Yeah.
Yep.
But if over those first few months you get it accurate, and you'll see your business through this QBR in a way that you just can't through your financials. You can't figure it out by looking at your financials.
If you were to do it, to be specific here, do the QBR faithfully. Make sure you keep a PBR. Make sure that's faithful.
Yeah.
Do micro and macro economics and use the MRR evaluator. That's 5 things. If you do those 5 things, you'll move much faster than I did.
Yep. That's it. And that's really what got you there to stop working on the symptoms and start focusing on superpower. And within a couple years, when you did that, then you saw that big jump in terms of results.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to let you. Great job, dude.
Yeah.
By the way, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I got to take a minute to tell you, like, what a pleasure it is for us to be able to, watch the development of your business. And I'm like totally psyched to be able to watch it, moving forward. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I hope so. I mean, you guys have been amazing for our success here. Not just me, but everyone here, and for my customers. So, thank you.
All right, so let's take a look at the QBR, and we'll let Josh hang on with us while we do it. And then there's a couple questions. We'll get to them at the end.
Okay, let's dive right in. So this member shared the last 2 quarters of their QBR numbers, and a couple things stand out here. There's a little bit of a rise in tickets created, not much, kind of along the same lines. Trends okay there. A lot less time though. A little bit of churn in the number of endpoints managed, but that is just because of reporting numbers. That's not a result of churn in actual clients. So the non-recurring services side is down, but still pretty high relative to the amount of MRR there. So almost 600,000 for the quarter, and 250,000 in NRR for the quarter is high. It's good. It's just high. So all added up, $1 million quarter in revenue, and expenses are in line with that. So employee expense is down because of the changes in employee personnel, and cost of goods sold is in line with what product sales are. So but I would say good-ish quarters of net profit. I mean, they're in the positive, not where they could be, but
Nope.
I think that there's a plan in place for that with this MSP. It's really about adding the right MRR, and because the main thing that sticks out about this right now is you still have a ways to go on turning point, even at this size. So
Yep. Yeah.
I look at this and I see their profitability being driven by outsized non-recurring revenue, and that's a little concern.
Yeah, it is a concern. And one thing you'll see is, I mean, you can't tell it here. We're going to try to in the future have some benchmarking, but all other expenses, and employee expenses, those two combined, are high relative to the recurring revenue, and
Yep.
that coupled with that percentage, is the reason why really at we're talking about 597, that it's approaching 200,000 a month, you really should be at or above your turning point. So that's the main focus here as we dealt with this MSP. That's the laser focus that we pointed them on, is that now's the time you have to hold those expenses and really choose those clients wildly, because you can't get much further without closing that gap on turning points. It's too big.
Yep. Okay. On the organization side, 43 managed services agreements, and you see activity in sales, and some new MRR. Still have some churn, and that's a concern. But for the amount of activity, probably should be a little bit more in results, and I think they're still working on that. So,
and for them with their ORR, they put some like Office 365 and a couple remaining one-offs on backup that aren't bundled.
Yeah, yes. Yep. That's a good question, Cole. Okay, let's look at the results. And the hours per endpoint per month, that's REM. It's 0.3, pretty good. It's pretty good. So I think it can improve from an average resolution time perspective, but I'd say they're pretty good there. And as far as a percentage of reactive time,
they're pretty good, other than relative to all-in-seat price.
Well, yeah,
Right.
and this is the point. The number itself is pretty good. In relation to the all-in-seat price, that is not good.
So here's what I say. When I look at this, when I look at REM, I look right down at all-in-seat price. When I see a 109, and I know that this MSP sells at 140 to 160 on their full fixed fee, that they must have some. They have, I immediately know they either have some stuff that shouldn't be in there, or they've sold what they're calling some point of contact deals. They either priced them wrong, or they're not really point of contacts, because as you add those deals where people pay you more just for your superpower, but you're not responsible for first level support, but we're counting the endpoint. that automatically should drive your REM down, right? And that's why these two are related. Josh, does that make sense to you?
Perfect sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense. This is right. This does point to pricing problem. There are a few things going on, right? The outsized project revenue. Don't know how sustainable that is. Average all-in seat price needs to be higher. If they're selling at 160, I'd encourage them to sell at 175 because it just doesn't matter.
Yep. Yeah, and one thing we did a session on this at one of the Winter Circle meetings, and I did some math and showed everybody, listen, even if you're not doing first level support with some of these bigger deals, you're just doing centralized services, net admin, VCIO, and kind of just things that bubble up from their support. They're doing their own support. You can't be below $100 a seat, even on that. And so people sometimes miss that logic, and they got deals at 50, 60, 70 bucks a seat. And, we proved it out with the math. But if you look at your Peakonomics, the answers are there. It doesn't work, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, look, these are they're all choices that this business owner gets to make, and but the math is the math. So you sell at a lower price if that's what you want to do, and accept less profit. It's just there's no way to fix it. They don't have a lot of room in their service delivery to fix that problem. I don't know who their customers are. I don't know. There are a lot of things we don't know, but point 3 and point 5 aren't terrible.
Yeah, and then think about it for them with 1,800 whatever seats under management. Even if this average from those other deals, if they would have priced them right, and they were even $20 average higher, that's like $400,000 to the bottom line, right?
It's $108,000 a quarter, and that on 146,000 in that in net profit.
Yeah, all of a sudden, guess what?
You're at 20 some odd percent.
We're at 20%. So that $20 gets you to 20% without changing anything else in the business. This is the part that we're trying to get through to people. Like, you're working too hard.
Everything else about this is, I mean, from the numbers standpoint, the operations they're good. The pricing has to match up with it, and even the average MRR is good. It's 4,600. That's good average MRR. It's just that all-in seat price is low.
The other place to, depending on how long they've been at it, when I see a QBR like this, I wonder how many bad deals, from the old days need to get fixed. There's a lot of, hidden profitability in just fixing or getting rid of those bad deals. And that can be in a quarterly initiative that can make a huge difference.
Yep. Yeah. So we talked about that, and there is an initiative. But here's what I found. So obviously, we ask these questions. It's fun. Like, and if some other people want to volunteer to go through this process, you get on the phone with Bob and I, and we drill down into this, so we're prepared for this session. But immediately we went to the MRR evaluator, and we found 2 or 3 larger deals that aren't priced right and have too much noise. The problem is they're going to try to fix them. You normally don't, and then it's really hard to give them up because you're trying to grow your top line MRR, and even though they're holding you back, if they're 10, 15, 17 grand, like if they're 4%, 3%, whatever of your MRR, they're really tough decisions to make, and that's another reason why everything takes longer, right?
Yeah. Focus a little less on the top line. We always talk about what's your MRR, but focus a little bit more on the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Yep. Good. Okay. Anything else on this?
No, I think we're good. We have a couple questions. One on the QBR. RJ was asking, hey, if they're at 110 and 4,600, that means their average client has around 42 employees. Is it still a struggle to find clients of that size? Well, here's what I would say. Sometimes your average is not as much as the mean. And so what happens with a lot of people, I would say, they should be focusing on those clients that have between 20 and 50, 20 and 60 desktops. And then you get a couple of these big point of contact deals. They have 100, 200, 300 or 400 desktops, and it really brings up that average. So, I don't think you're going to bring on a client every month of that size. But you know me, Josh, I love those $3,000 to $6,000 deals. The ones that are big enough that they move the needle for us, and our profitability and our pricing is right, but not so big that they're so complex that they take all of our best resources all the time. And if any one of them leaves, it's not the end of the world.
Right.
So the way that when Tim Fitzpatrick and I were selling, the way we looked at it is we were looking to close a couple, what we call those core deals every month, and then like one maybe nice bigger deal a quarter. And that's how we used to do our math, rather than just saying this is our average. We broke it up into those two things.
Go sell those 5K, 6K deals, and then go whale hunting every now and then.
Yeah, and again, a few of those deals, 2, 3 of those deals in a year is really all you want or need, and you want to keep that ratio right, and you want to make sure they just kind of speed up, get you into some bigger deals, but try to live in those $4,000 to $6,000 deals. They're the ones we love.
Okay. That's it. We're going to land this right on the runway.
Yeah, one other question. Kristen asked a question, what role would your admin and accounting staff fall into to calculate your cost per receipt? They wouldn't. So we're not calculating non-service delivery.
SG&A, right?
Yeah, SG&A, because this is really, we're trying to calculate gross margins. So that would be labor loaded. So that's tools and labor directly. But if you watch Microeconomics, we explain that in detail. Okay, I think we answered everything.
I think we did.
Josh, thank you so much, man.
Oh, thank you guys. This is fun. And now I'm on vacation, so perfect.
Officially.
Right now, you're going to vacation right this minute, right?
I'm heading to the airport. So this is perfect timing.
Listen, you have a great vacation.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Josh. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Make it a great day.